It's been 20 years since this Fantastic Four film was released in cinemas, and you know what? I still enjoy it.
That's gross.
Hi, I'm LadyJenevia, and on my channel I talk about entertainment media. Today I'm going to be doing a review of the 2005 Fantastic Four. I already had this film from when I did a watch party of it a few years ago, and I had just had a viewer ask in my comments about the idea of doing nostalgic reviews, and I thought, alright, well then let's visit Fantastic Four to celebrate the 20th year anniversary. Sadly, Julian McMahon recently passed away, so we will be talking about his performance early on in this review. Moreover, this video is going to have plot spoilers. It's been 20 years, so if you wanted to not be spoiled, you have had more than enough time to watch. My pull quote is as follows. Fantastic Four delivers whimsical banter and a sincere exploration of the relationships within a found family forged by extraordinary circumstances. Moreover, the late, great Julian McMahon's performance further elevates the film's dramatic caliber.
Wait a minute. It's too late, Victor. Do you know how much money I've invested in this company? Victor.
Before we take this trip down memory lane, I will quickly address the elephant in the room. I will not be seeing the new Fantastic Four film. I already outlined a lot of my issues with the current state of corporate IP franchise filmmaking in the intro section of my recent Superman review. I'm not interested in the new film. I also have other video projects I want to work on. Among other things, I have a book to read for a new source material video that I really need to get through before that book will be due back at the library. And since I do YouTube part-time, it's a delicate balance of allocating time for viewing things and time for working on videos about those things. Now, on to the main event, Fantastic Four 2005.
Is that a trick question? Grow up. Come on. Am I the only guy who thinks this is cool?
In honor of Julian McMahon, let's talk about his Victor Von Doom first. Right from the beginning, they establish who this villain is when Reed and Ben arrive at Von Doom Industries and see a 30-foot statue of Victor being put up out front.
Typical of Victor Von Doom to build a 30-foot statue of himself.
Is that a read of Victor as a character? Yes, absolutely. But it's not only an immediate introduction to who Victor is, it's also an introduction to Reed's insecurity and Ben being the absolute best friend you could ever hope to have.
It's obviously aimed at first-time visitors to create feelings of smallness, inadequacy.
Good thing it ain't working.
Ben condemns Victor for only caring about fast food science, meaning that Victor is someone who only wants to fund things that he deems as profitable, something that will help raise his profits and quickly, as opposed to funding science that could be something important to benefiting the well-being of people, wildlife, the planet, and so on and so forth.
I don't think I've explained my proposal fully.
No, I think you have. Same old Reed, always stretching, reaching for the stars with the weight of the world on his back.
I love whenever they throw in these slick lines that are foreshadowing or meta about the film that this is. When it's Julian as Victor Von Doom who has these lines, his delivery is impeccable.
Susan, you're fired!
He strikes a perfect balance of serious drama and making this character a very real and dangerous threat, but also striking that balance with the film's sense of humor and whimsy. If you're one of my regular viewers, you will already know that I love to watch a bit of well-executed whimsy.
Bit of foreplay, you know, twinkle in the eye, the deed, you know, pregnancy.
Now, I don't mention this word to do some sort of pop psychology analysis of Victor Von Doom as a character, but I will say that we do see a sort of narcissistic obsession with his image and reputation. He's unhappy when his appearance starts to be affected by his exposure to the cosmic clouds.
Larry King, cover of the Journal. I have to do something about this scar. Make sure they only shoot me from my left side. I have a life from the face of a billion-dollar company.
Even just the detail of how his final transformation of fully embracing this Dr. Doom persona is synchronized with him seeing his own reflection and how much more significant the changes are to his face. It's just a fantastic storytelling detail. He is extremely manipulative and calculated in his actions. You can see this in the very beginning when he has his meeting with Reed and proceeds to demand 75% of the profits on his investment in Reed's research, plus all of the patents. It's a horrendously lopsided deal.
Come on. 25% of $1 billion is enough to keep the lights on for a while, isn't it? Maybe even pay off your fourth mortgage on the Baxter building.
Imagine that, a superhero movie that shows that billionaires are evil and selfish and not people to romanticize. There's at least one person who missed that memo though, and it's this reporter who interviews Johnny Storm after his fire stunt. She just married Jeff Bezos while Italians were protesting against their unwelcome presence.
Ferre, Armani, and Versace.
Now, to be clear, that detail didn't factor into my overall review score, but it was just a very random piece of trivia I learned about on this latest rewatch and in my preparation to do a review, and I thought I would let viewers who tune into this video know about it as well.
And this was always going to be the big day of protest. They made their way across the Rialto Bridge.
When Victor decides to fully go after Reed again, this is after Victor has lost his status and standing in his company. He's gotten a diagnosis he doesn't like in regards to his ongoing metallic transformation, and now that he's already lashed out with multiple violent attacks against people he sees as his enemies, it's time to go after Reed Richards.
Reed got what he wanted, and everything he wanted, he took from me. Now it's time to take it back.
This was an important moment in my rewatch of this film for me to realize yet another reason why this film has held up so well and why I rate it so favorably compared to the increasingly corporate franchisification of the superhero genre and premise. This entire film is about relationships. Every interaction and conflict among the heroes and villain of this story feels deeply personal. There is a whole other emotional weight and depth to this because of how long of a history all of these people have with one another. Even within the group of heroes, there is friction stemming from their history with one another. Reed and Sue have unresolved romantic feelings for one another because Reed had previously struggled to effectively communicate his feelings for Sue while they were together, and it made her feel like she didn't matter to him. Johnny says early on in the film that Ben used to be his professional superior, but then on this first space mission we watch, Johnny has a position that technically speaking is above Ben. Johnny also has some serious, annoying little brother energy that he will enthusiastically deploy whenever he thinks it's funny to do so. Thus, within those relationship dynamics, a massive part of the payoff is about being able to gain a better understanding of one another, and as such, be able to deepen those platonic or romantic connections. These aren't just heroes because of their superpowered abilities. They're also aspirational for their ability to work through their differences and to become a team. But in my more affectionate appraisal, it's a found family dynamic. It's a chosen family, even if Sue and Johnny were already actual siblings. Victor Von Doom isn't just the villain because he's got the superpowers to be able to do a giant action-filled fight scene during the film's finale. He's a villain because he's a cruel, selfish, greedy billionaire, and the only way you become a billionaire in the first place is a total disregard for the well-being of others. When he tries to propose to Sue while they're all up in space, the moment is interrupted by what? Destiny.
4 little words that can change our lives forever.
The cloud is accelerating.
When the storm is closing in fast, Sue wants to jump into action to try to help the rest of the team, whereas Victor wants to shut the door on them.
You can't just leave them out there.
Watch me.
We never really get an official breakup scene for them, but if you ask me, that was the moment when she knew she was done with him. She saw his true face. Is this film full of comedy? Yes. But it's also offering legitimate character drama and does quite a bit of work to flesh out the relationship dynamics between our leads. I really want to give credit to director Tim Story. This isn't the only film of his that shows that he's very good at this, but he knows how to showcase an ensemble where everyone gets their moment to shine, but you also make a point of showing the chemistry and relationships within that large ensemble.
Come on, bro, let's run one.
Dwayne, did you just shift in your seat at me, you little moody ass?
The more people you have in a scene, the more work that is. So it's no small feat to be able to show everyone together and having banter, meaningful emotional exchanges. All of that takes a lot of planning, but he pulls it off.
You guys look like an 80s rock band.
You know, Ben, this material stretches. I'm sure I can figure out a way to make it fit.
I wouldn't be caught dead wearing that.
I love these costumes. They're missing something though, right? It's like spice.
They're not costumes.
But now let's go through the actual members of the Fantastic Four. By far, the one with the most range, the most dramatic weight, is Ben Grimm, also known as the Thing. Michael Chiklis acts in this like he's doing a prestige drama. The despair and sorrow of how he feels about this transformation, the immediate rejection from his wife Debbie, being made to feel othered with a capital O, every single detail of his performance, his story, material, every interaction he has with every character, even the transformation of how people are scared of him on the bridge, but once he pulls the fire truck back onto that bridge when it had been starting to slide over the edge, and then all of those people are applauding him and see him as a hero. Anything and everything Michael Chiklis gets a 10 out of 10 in this movie. That includes his makeup, by the way, the fact that it's all done practically. It makes him feel so much more real and tangible. That scene in the bar when Kerry Washington as Alicia is feeling him, the emotional impact is through the roof. Ben's transformation and the rejection he experiences, the way that that entire story plays out in this film, feels like this massive tragedy akin to Frankenstein's monster.
We're all in this together, Ben.
Together? Susie, look at me. You got no idea what I'd give to be invisible.
Also, that scene with Ben when his wife runs away from him, and then following up on that when she puts the ring on the ground and he is unable to pick the ring up on his own, that's probably one of the saddest things I've seen in a superhero film that didn't involve someone dying. Another storytelling detail that I love is that in many ways, each of the Fantastic Four has a sort of narrative lead-in to the powers that they end up getting. Sue feels like Reed doesn't see her. Even when she has her spacesuit on and she looks fabulous, he's more excited about the tech instead of noticing how nice she looks.
The synthetics act as a second skin, adapting to your body's individual needs.
See, now that means it keeps the hot stuff hot and it keeps the cool stuff cool.
Wow. Fantastic. Material made from self-regulating unstable molecules. I've been working on a formula for this.
It's the exact argument they have before both of their powers are revealed. With Reed, I've probably already played the clip in this review by now, but Victor makes a mention at the beginning of the film about him stretching.
Same old Reed, always stretching, reaching for the stars with the weight of the world on his back.
With Johnny, he is characterized as being rather hedonistic, promiscuous, fire being something very ostentatious. It's attention grabbing. So any way you look at it, this suits him. And then we have Ben, who is figuratively a rock to his friends and loved ones, even before his transformation. He's strong, dependable, he's the absolute best support system you could hope to have in your life.
When have I ever asked you to do something you absolutely said you could not do?
5 times.
I had it at 4.
Well, this makes 5.
Maybe you should have stayed in the lab. Field work never suited you.
He does the talking. I do the walking.
Now let's go through the remaining 3 of the Fantastic Four. For Reed, I think one of the things I find most refreshing about him is how Ioan is so precise and balanced in showing how socially awkward and emotionally vulnerable Reed is. It's one of the first things that's said about him.
Well, it's obviously aimed at first-time visitors to create feelings of smallness, inadequacy.
Good thing it ain't working.
As a romance girly, I happen to love the way Ioan and Jessica worked together because there's an entire relationship and all of its history that took place before we meet any of these characters in this movie, and the two of them make it feel so real and lived in. The sheer panic on Reed's face when he hears Sue's voice.
He's right, Ben. It is just business.
The quickness of their responses to one another.
You can call me in the morning for resources and crew.
I think I remember the number.
It's been changed.
And I feel a thrill of, okay, here we go. Whenever we get to that scene of him and Sue in the lab and he finally is the one to bring up the relationship baggage that they have.
I mean, you broke up with me, right?
Are you kidding?
Reed is heroic in a very understated way. He is willing to dangerously put himself inside of a machine to test if it works, simply because of how distraught Ben was at still being physically transformed by the storm. He's a leader without being overly controlling or imposing. When I look back on him, he feels very refreshing compared to a lot of other characters in the sea of characters I've seen in the onslaught of superhero oversaturation before I started pulling back on watching a lot of those projects because of burnout and other reasons I don't need to rehash at this point in time. With Sue, I've had a real evolution over the years with her because when I watched this in my childhood, I was not doing any sort of analytical dissection of the characters or story. I just watched it and enjoyed it, and there wasn't anything overcomplicating that. Then a few years go by and a small part of me wondered, how do I feel about the fact that a lot of her story is focused on her romantic relationship with Reed? Should she have more to her story and her overall arc in this film, or is it fine as is? And then when I rewatched this film to prepare for this review, where I ultimately landed was that I think her story works because of the aforementioned point I made where this film heavily focuses on relationships in general for everyone in the Fantastic Four and its main villain. Sue's relationship woes are just as much part of Reed's story as they are hers. Ben and Johnny have a conversation about that relationship before any of them even get their superpowers.
Please tell me your guy's not trying to rekindle things with my sister again.
Of course not. Strictly business.
Yes, well, his eyes say differently, don't they?
Hey, 2 hearts got busted last time. Maybe she's not over it either.
And there's something very interesting, thematically speaking, about the way the film introduces this love triangle and eventually resolves it. When Johnny explains how Victor is the better option, it's a very shallow and materialistic reflection of how Victor is a good option on paper.
You got Victor, more money than God, stud of the year. And you got Reed, world's dumbest smart guy, worth less than a postage stamp. That's a real toss-up.
But then it quickly presents how the more important thing is the value of people's character. Victor sent Sue loads of bouquets of flowers to her room when she was recovering, but Reed was the one who knew which flowers she's allergic to and which ones were her favorite.
Oh, she's allergic to orchids. Put the sunflowers by her bed. They're her favorites.
And that also ties into Ben's story, where on a superficial level, people are rejecting or fearing him because of what he looks like. But he's a genuinely good person with a kind heart, and that's who he's always been. I also love Sue's chemistry with Johnny. Whenever they argue, they really feel like they're brother and sister. It feels like you immediately have a window into the way these two have been bickering since childhood, and not even growing into adults, becoming highly successful in their fields, and getting superpowers is going to change that.
Stop.
All right.
All right?
Yes.
God.
God.
What's wrong
Sue,
with you?
you know the code?
I gotta get back to the real world.
You're calling that the real world?
Sue, stop. You're not Mom. Don't talk to me like I'm a little boy, okay?
Maybe I would if you stopped acting like one.
The scene where Sue and Reed first discover their powers embodies a perfect juxtaposition of what this film is. You have this deeply human, emotionally earnest conversation of her feeling like he never really saw her in their relationship.
It's nice to be wanted sometimes, Reed. To be seen and heard.
And then when she demands that he looks at her, she has turned invisible. That last part is the fun, fantastical part of the story and the genre it inhabits.
Look at me.
I can't.
What do you mean you can't? Look at me!
Sue, look at your hands.
But now let's talk about the joker of the group, Johnny Storm. It's very easy to focus on the exterior, the bravado, the comebacks, the pranks.
Johnny!
But if I really try to reflect on the details of this character, I think a really underrated quality about him is that he doesn't come across like a creep. This film is from the 2000s, and they never shy away from the fact that Johnny is a flirt, he is promiscuous, but he somehow doesn't come across as threatening. It's one of many factors that help to enhance the rewatchability of the film. I also picked up on the detail of how he loves to say the word cool.
That's what they're calling it. The Fantastic Four. Cool.
No, wait!
Is that a trick question?
Grow up.
Come on. I'm the only guy who thinks this is cool.
The cloud has fundamentally altered our DNA.
Cool!
Besides the fact that there is something funny that would be his go-to word when his superpower is fire, hot enough to potentially be like the sun itself sort of fire, but this perfectly embodies the essence of his character, his enthusiasm, his zest for life, how unique he is within the group because he is the only one of the Fantastic Four that is genuinely excited about having these superpowers.
Look, this isn't permanent, Johnny. We need to be careful until we're normal again.
What if I don't want to be normal?
When I revisit this character to review 20 years after the original release, he does have more going on beneath the bravado. Now, of course, some of this is my own headcanon, my interpretation, but what is art if not open to interpretation? You hear Johnny wisecracking a lot, and Ben in particular is someone he likes to mess with because he thinks it's funny. Like I said before, he's firmly planted in little brother mode of messing with people, but he's not malicious. He's not trying to bully or deeply hurt anyone. When the storm is accelerating and the group minus Victor is very worried about Ben and trying to get Ben back inside, the jokes stop. He's just as concerned about Ben as everyone else. This is not only something I like about the characterization of Johnny Storm, but it's also about the way this film balances its tone. Nowadays, for the last decade or so, maybe the last 13 years, there has been an increasingly insufferable shift towards interrupting the dramatic tension of important moments with ill-timed humor, and I use the word humor very loosely. And this seems to be a particularly ongoing issue with the most mainstream corporate franchise sort of films. I don't like that. Particularly when a film isn't first and foremost comedy, like a Wayans Brothers film, for example.
Brittany, what are you doing? Those are the strippers, Raul and Tito!
Right after the bridge sequence, the first time the Fantastic Four are able to start their heroic actions, Johnny asks Ben a question.
Where are your ears?
And there's two ways that I could go about interpreting this. One way is that he's just genuinely curious, where are Ben's ears? It's a bit juvenile. Another way to interpret this is that he's just trying to break the tension. I think Johnny is well aware of the fact that he can be funny, and the way that he goes about cracking jokes, he playfully messes with people. I think this is simply a major part of how he communicates. Humor can be his love language, it can be a coping mechanism, it can be a reflex. But ultimately, he is an adult, and I don't think he's completely clueless. So when Ben decides to retransform himself into the Thing, we see Johnny being genuine once again, without drenching his sentiment in humor.
Had a little relapse, huh? Welcome back.
This is easily one of the best performances I've seen from Chris Evans. This and Snowpiercer are standouts from what I've seen him do. There are a couple of other honorable mentions that I will not get into simply because this is a Fantastic Four review, not a Chris Evans career analysis. One last small detail I want to share of something I enjoy about this film, it has to be the small details of domesticity. Reed stretching his arm out to reach for a new roll of toilet paper. Ben struggling to figure out how to have food and juice when various kitchen supplies in their living space are not built for someone like him. Johnny popping popcorn by placing it on his hand. It feels like these big corporate franchises nowadays are often allergic to things as small and intimate as these. I think about that one clip of James Cameron talking about how some executive had been telling him he needed to cut out the scene of Jake and Neytiri flying in the first Avatar film, and he made the argument of how he, James Cameron, wants to see it, and so by extension, there will be plenty of people in the audience that will also want to see it. That's how I feel about the disparity between Fantastic Four 2005 being considerate in including these intimate domestic details that make you feel more of how these characters are adjusting to having these new superpowers and various details of how they impact these characters' daily lives, as opposed to just how they use those powers in some big action sequences. Of course, you should keep pacing in mind when deciding how much extra material you would like to include to fill out miscellaneous world-building details about characters, but it often feels like the more corporate a movie is, the more clinical the approach is to this part of the storytelling. I also really appreciate the detail of how Reed's financial struggles are included within the film's narrative.
25% of $1 billion is enough to keep the lights on for a while, isn't it? Maybe even pay off your 4th mortgage on the Baxter building.
We had a tough year.
Yeah, like 9 straight.
I don't need to see people struggling financially in every film that I watch, but I will say that it's refreshing to have it be acknowledged as part of the world building because it impacts the story as well as character motivations, and even the small detail of Johnny coming up with an action figure prototype for Ben, it feels like a resolution to that issue of the financial problems. They don't overly explain or elaborate on that, but if you would like to stop and ponder the material, it feels like Johnny has come up with a solution. If the Fantastic Four can sell merchandise, they own the rights to their own image, they can use that to make enough money to pay off the mortgages on the Baxter building and just keep the lights on, build or buy any scientific technological supplies that they will need for research or for saving people, for working on their suits, anything else they will need to be scientists/superheroes. Now, it's not something that's entirely necessary to the film, but if you are someone that would like to think about those details, there is that material available for you to dig into and create headcanons, like the one I just said. Overall, this is one of the superhero films that I am still able to look back fondly on. Being that the theatrical cut was only about 1 hour 45, I think there was room to flesh out some of the details a bit more, but the film's merits far outweigh any of the nitpicks I might have.
Look, check it out. Listen. You love this.
It's clobbering time!
It's catchy, right?